There is something you carry that no one else can see. It does not show up on your face. It does not appear in photographs, but it is there. Every morning when you wake, every night when sleep will not come, every quiet moment when your mind drifts back to that thing you said, that choice you made, that person you hurt, that version of yourself you cannot seem to forgive. You have tried to outrun it, stayed busy, filled the silence with noise, told yourself it does not matter anymore, but it follows, patient, heavy, waiting for you in the stillness. That weight has a name: unforgiveness. And it is not protecting you. It is not keeping you safe. It is not proof that you are a good person who cares deeply about right and wrong. It is a prison. One you built yourself, one you guard yourself, one only you can walk out of. I know what you are thinking. You do not know what they did. You do not know what I did. You do not understand how deep this goes. You are right. I do not know your specific pain. I cannot see the memories that replay at 3 a.m. I was not there when it happened. But I do know this. That person who wronged you is not awake right now thinking about it. They have moved on. They are living their life, and you are still there, frozen in a moment that ended years ago, punishing yourself for something that cannot be changed. That is not justice. That is not nobility. That is suffering without purpose. And you deserve better. What I am about to share is not philosophy. It is not inspiration designed to make you feel good for an hour and then fade. This is about reclaiming something that was stolen from you. Your peace, your presence, your ability to breathe without that knot in your chest. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you will understand not just why you have been holding on, but how to finally let go. Let me tell you about a man I once knew. He carried guilt for 23 years. Not over something dramatic, not a crime, not a public failure, just a conversation. One conversation with his father that went wrong. Words said in anger. A door slammed. And then 3 weeks later, his father died. They never spoke again. For over 2 decades, this man replayed that conversation. Every holiday, every birthday, every time he saw a father and son together, he imagined what he should have said. He rehearsed apologies that could never be delivered. He punished himself with a grief that had no expiration date. When I met him, he was successful by every external measure. Good career, loving family, respected in his community. But there was something missing behind his eyes. A heaviness he could not name, but everyone could feel. One day, he told me the story. And when he finished, I asked him a simple question. If your son did the same thing to you, and then you died, what would you want for him? He broke down because he knew the answer. He would want his son to live, to be free, to forgive himself and move forward. He would never want his child to carry that weight for decades. And in that moment, he realized something that changed everything. His father would have wanted the same for him. The punishment was never required. The guilt was never demanded. He had sentenced himself to a prison that no one else had built, and the key had been in his pocket the entire time. That is the nature of unforgiveness. It feels like loyalty, like proof that we care, like the right thing to do. But it is none of those things. It is just heavy. And we are allowed to put it down. Most people misunderstand what forgiveness actually means. They think it means pretending something did not happen, letting someone off the hook, saying what they did was acceptable, opening the door to be hurt again. None of that is forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about them. It never was. Forgiveness is a decision you make for yourself. A declaration that says, I am no longer willing to carry this weight. I am no longer willing to let this moment from the past control my present. I am no longer willing to drink poison and wait for someone else to die. You can forgive someone and never speak to them again. You can forgive someone and maintain every boundary you need. You can forgive someone and still acknowledge that what they did was wrong. Forgiveness does not require reconciliation. It does not require an apology. It does not require the other person to change, to understand, or even to be alive. Because forgiveness is not a transaction between you and them, is less than #0. 6# is greater than, it is a gift you give yourself. The moment you stop waiting for them to make it right, something shifts. You take your power back. Your peace stops depending on someone who may never change. You become free in a way that has nothing to do with their behavior and everything to do with your choice. That is the shift. That is the freedom. That is what most people never understand. They stay trapped because they are waiting for an apology, waiting for acknowledgement, waiting for the other person to feel the pain they caused. But waiting is just another form of imprisonment, and the sentence has no end date unless you decide to walk out. Now let me ask you something harder. What about yourself? Because most of us eventually find a way to forgive others. Time passes, distance helps, we see their humanity, we understand their pain, we let go, imperfectly but genuinely. But forgiving ourselves, that is the real battle. We hold standards for ourselves that we would never apply to anyone we love. We expect past versions of ourselves to have known things we only learned from the mistakes. We stand in the present with all our wisdom and judge the person who did not have it yet. Think about this honestly. You are criticizing your 20-year-old self for not having 30-year-old wisdom. You are punishing your younger self for not knowing the lesson that only the mistake could teach. You are demanding perfection from someone who is just trying to survive. That is not accountability. That is cruelty. And you would never do it to someone you love. If your best friend came to you and confessed the thing you cannot forgive yourself for, what would you say to them? Would you tell them they are worthless? That they deserve to suffer forever? That they should carry this shame until they die? Of course not. You would hold them. You would remind them that people make mistakes. You would tell them that growth is possible, that the past does not define them, that they deserve compassion. Why do you deserve less? The person you were back then was doing the best they could with what they had. They were operating from limited information, unhealed wounds, survival instincts, fear. They did not have your current perspective because that perspective only exists because of what happened. You learned, you grew, you became someone different. And that someone different is worthy of forgiveness, not because you are perfect now, but because you are human, and humans are allowed to evolve. There is a voice that shows up when you try to forgive yourself. It comes at night, in the quiet, when you are alone with your thoughts. It reminds you of everything you have done wrong, every embarrassing moment, every failure, every person you hurt, every opportunity you wasted. That voice sounds like you, but it is not you. It is an accumulation, things people said to you that stuck, messages you absorbed from parents, teachers, culture, fears you inherited without choosing, criticisms that burrowed so deep you forgot they came from outside. That voice has been running on autopilot for so long that you think it is protecting you. You think if you let it beat you up enough, you will become better. You think the self-criticism is keeping you in line. But it is not. It is keeping you stuck. I believed that voice for years. Every judgment, every accusation. I thought suffering was the price of growth. I thought I had to earn my way out of shame through punishment. All it did was make me miserable. And misery does not produce change. It produces paralysis. What actually helps is something much gentler. You learn to separate from the voice. You give it a name. You recognize it as a pattern, not a truth. And when it speaks, you do not fight it. You simply respond. I hear you. I know you are trying to protect me, but I do not need this anymore. Then you replace the lie with something true. Instead of I am an idiot for that mistake, you say I am someone who learns from experience. Instead of I always mess things up, you say I have overcome before and I can again. Instead of I do not deserve forgiveness, you say I am human and humans deserve compassion. This is not toxic positivity. This is not pretending everything is fine. This is being fair to yourself. Finally, after all this time, let me tell you what happens when you do not forgive. The weight does not stay contained. It does not sit politely in one corner of your life. It spreads slowly, invisibly, until it has touched everything. The resentment you carry toward your father shows up in how you treat your son. The anger you hold toward your ex shows up in how you approach new relationships. The shame you feel about your past shows up in how you sabotage your future. Hurt people hurt people. That is not just a saying, it is a law. Pain reproduces itself. It passes from generation to generation, relationship to relationship, moment to moment. Your parent was hard on you because their parent was hard on them. Your ex could not be vulnerable because they learned vulnerability was dangerous. You struggle with worth because someone made you feel worthless before you had the tools to question it. This is the chain, the cycle, the pattern, repeating across decades, across families, across lifetimes. And it continues until someone decides to break it. That someone could be you. When you choose forgiveness, you are not just healing yourself. You are healing everyone who comes after you. Your children, your future relationships, the people you have not even met yet. You are saying, this ends with me. I will not pass this pain forward. I will feel it, process it, release it, and what comes out of me will be different than what went in. That is not small. That is not selfish. That is one of the most generous things a human being can do. The bitterness stops here. The resentment stops here. The pattern of pain that has run through your family for generations, it stops here. With you, with this choice, with today. I need you to understand something about the past. It does not exist. I know that sounds strange. The past feels so real, so solid, so present. But the actual moments you are replaying, they dissolved the second they happened. What remains is not the event. It is your story about the event. Your interpretation, your memory, which is not even accurate because memory never is. You are not fighting the past. You are fighting a narrative you constructed about the past. And that narrative is not fixed. It is not truth. It is a story you have told yourself so many times that it feels like fact. But stories can change. The event stays the same. What happened, happened. But the meaning you assign to it, the identity you build around it, the weight you give it, all of that is yours to decide. I am someone who was betrayed, can become. I am someone who learned what I will not accept. I am someone who failed, can become. I am someone who discovered what does not work. I am someone unworthy of love, can become. I am someone still learning how to receive it. Same events, different stories, completely different lives. When you replay a painful memory, your body does not know it is just a memory. Your nervous system responds as if it is happening now. Cortisol spikes, heart rate increases, fight or flight activates. Over a moment that ended years ago, over something that only exists in your mind. You are torturing yourself with ghosts. And the only way to stop is to stop arguing with what happened. Stop negotiating with the past. Stop trying to rewrite scenes that are already finished. You acknowledge, yes, that happened. It was painful. It is over. Not because you are weak, not because it does not matter, but because you deserve to live in the present. And the present is the only place where peace exists. Right now, as you read this, you are okay. You are breathing. You are alive. Whatever happened before this moment, you survived it. You are still here. That is not nothing. That is everything. There is a practice that helped me more than anything else. I call it putting down the stones. Imagine you have been walking through life with a backpack, and every time something painful happens, every time someone hurts you, every time you fail or disappoint yourself, you pick up a stone and put it in the backpack. One stone does not feel like much, but then another, and another, and another. Eventually, you are bent over from the weight. You have forgotten what it feels like to stand straight. You cannot run. You cannot climb. You can barely walk. And you have accepted this as normal because you have been carrying it so long. Those stones have names. One is the story you tell yourself. I am the person who messes things up. I am unworthy because of what I did. They are terrible and deserve my hatred. Another is the illusion of control. If I stay angry, I stay safe. If I stay guilty, it proves I care. If I hold on to this, somehow I can change what happened. Another is the belief that suffering equals caring. If I forgive, it means it did not matter. If I let go, I am betraying myself. If I stop hurting, I am a bad person. None of these stones are protecting you. None of them are making you better. None of them are keeping you safe. They are just heavy. And you are allowed to put them down, not all at once, not perfectly, but one by one. Starting with the heaviest. Starting with the one that has been breaking your back for years. What would it feel like to set that one down? Right now. Right here. Not to throw it, not to pretend it never existed, just to gently place it on the ground and step forward without it. Lighter, freer, still yourself, but unburdened. That is available to you, that has always been available to you. The backpack was never locked, you were just convinced you had to keep carrying it. You do not. Forgiveness is not a one-time event. I wish I could tell you that you read something like this, have a breakthrough, and the work is done, but that is not how it works. Forgiveness is a practice, a daily choice, sometimes a moment-to-moment choice. Some days you will feel light, free, at peace with everything that has happened. The weight will feel gone. You will wonder why you carried it so long. Other days, the old story will creep back. The resentment will knock on the door. The voice will remind you of everything you were trying to release. That is okay. That is not failure. That is being human. You do not have to forgive perfectly. You just have to keep choosing. Every time the weight returns, you put it down again. Every time the story resurfaces, you tell a truer one. Every time the voice attacks, you respond with compassion. I forgive. I let go. I am free. Over and over. Until one day, it is not a choice anymore. It is who you are. Someone who does not carry the past. Someone who does not let others' pain become their own. Someone who broke the chain. Someone who chose freedom. That is what is waiting for you on the other side of this work. Not a perfect life. Not a life without pain, but a life where the pain does not own you. A life where you are present for what is happening now instead of imprisoned by what happened then. A life where you can finally breathe. If you are still here, that tells me something about you. It tells me you are serious, that you are tired of carrying what you have been carrying, that you are ready for something to change. That readiness is everything. That is where transformation begins. Not with a technique, not with a strategy, with a decision. A decision that says, I am done living this way. I am done punishing myself. I am done waiting for permission to be free. You do not need anyone's permission. Not the person who hurt you, not the people who would judge you, not even the voice in your head that says you have not suffered enough yet. You are allowed to put this down today, right now. And when you do, something miraculous happens. You stop living in reaction to your past. You start living in alignment with your values. You stop waiting for others to change. You start changing yourself. You stop asking, why did this happen? You start asking, what can I learn? That is when peace comes. Not because your circumstances changed, but because you changed your relationship to them. Everything we have talked about is foundational. It is how you reclaim your center, your calm, your ability to move through life without dragging the past behind you. But there is something we have not addressed yet. What happens after you forgive? What happens when you have done this work, let go of the weight, found some peace, and then life tests you again? When someone pushes your buttons, when old patterns try to resurface, when the world throws chaos at you and you feel yourself slipping back into reaction. Forgiveness clears the past, but staying free requires something more. It requires building a foundation so solid that nothing can shake it. Not circumstances, not other people, not even your own doubts. That is what the next video is about. How to be consistent, even when you do not feel like it. How to maintain who you are becoming when motivation disappears. When life gets hard, when everything in you wants to go back to old patterns. Because freedom is not just a moment, it is a practice. And that practice requires consistency that does not depend on feeling ready. If this message reached something in you, that video is where the work continues. Until then, be kind to yourself. You've cared enough, you've suffered enough, you deserve the same compassion you would give to anyone you love, and you deserve to be free.